Good afternoon, and finished up a unique week, having a modified schedule. So really pleased with how our players responded and adjusted to some last-minute changes, and to really capitalize on recruiting this past weekend and get a lot of ground covered, a lot of schools hit and games watched, and really spread out our staff and maximize that opportunity. Excited about the opportunity this week we have with Georgia Southern coming to town and the challenges that their offense creates as a triple option team and the athleticism that they possess. And so excited for this. Coming Saturday to get back on the field and play again. We recognizing our Insight Bowl team, 10-year anniversary, and excited to have Coach Hep's wife, Jane, with us, and some players from that team, and be wearing special uniforms in honor of Coach Hep and the Rock, and that Adidas has designed for us for this purpose. So looking forward to that and the opportunity to represent our program and recognize all that Coach Hep means to our program and his family. So looking forward to that opportunity to honor him. So any questions at this time?
With the triple option team, when do you start preparing for that? Is that something you work on in the spring?
We did. We started working in the spring when we knew that we were playing them, and just to be able to work on different facets of it that they're going to present. And they run it out of the shotgun, which is different than some, but it creates similar challenges. So we just have to. You can't just do it in a couple days. So we've been working on them in the spring, and then a little bit into fall camp, and with the created bye week, we got a chance to get some extra reps against that style last week as well. So it was good.
What's different? I guess kind of combining two parts of that answer. What's different about maybe a triple option out of a shotgun as opposed to maybe what people think of the Georgia Tech Navy kind of triple option? And people talk about when you do have that bye week built in that it's a big advantage. How much do you feel like you were able to get accomplished and maybe really sort of doubling down on prep for?
Yeah, I think there's an advantage for sure. If you're in a normal week, you really have just 2 days, so you can buy a few extra days of work to get ready. It is different from the shotgun than it is, and we've played against both, and it's more, to me, the timing of the way the plays hit. Some of the things that they do are similar. The cutting, on the perimeter is probably the biggest challenge, I think, and having gone against Navy and Georgia Tech in the recent history of my coaching, that's been things that we've had to really work on. And sometimes you feel good about your prep, and then you get in the game, it's just so much more difficult to defend it than it is again in practice. So that to me is a big challenge for sure, and just the speed of it. You having to have a scout team create the quarterback speed, and then just the assignments and all that you have to have. Just having them execute the offense at the level they're going to see it on game day is really almost impossible if you don't run that style of offense, which we obviously don't. So it always is going to take a series or two to get used to that speed of it. So I just think that that's why people run it. It creates challenges, and they'll be difficult to stop.
A couple games, but the lack of takeaways. Is there anything in the film that you see there?
Well, we've had, we felt like we created 2 this past game and lost both of those with penalties, So I think that, the first week, maybe the style of what they were doing and the way we defended them, didn't create as much negative plays, and which does, I think, often creates those takeaway situations. But I've learned they come in groups, and so we've been real close on several, had the ball on the ground. So in my mind, we could have had 3 last week. The ball was fumbled, and we had a certain call on that allowed us to move our nose away from. I think we have any other call on except for that very one, he would have fallen on the ball because it laid on the ball for a while. I felt like I need to go out and jump on it. It seemed like it was out there for so long, but that one call we had just happened to be the one when they fumbled the snap. So, our opportunities will come. We just have to continue to play hard. Not all been out of shape about that, but we keep emphasizing for sure. But I just have learned over time that they kind of come in groups.
Recruiting opportunity because of the bye. Is that an advantage, disadvantage? Does it change things? Is it better to have it later?
Well, I would say from a health perspective, later is better. You would rather have it more near the middle of your season, but, we can't control that. So it's one of those things where you can sit here and say that, and we had it after Game 5 was by the way it was set up, which I thought was ideal, and then it ended up being after Game 2, so, I would rather have it longer for sure. But we did have, a chance to get some guys healed up a little bit and gave chance for Brandon Knight to have another week to get healthy. So, that to me, you just adjust and you make the best of it, and you make every situation, you maximize the opportunity. So if I had to just pick, I'd put it smack in the middle of your season, but I didn't get to choose when the hurricane hit.
With your coaching staff ability to go out and recruit, you have more time.
Yeah, I don't think that really hurt us. I think our recruiting staff, Matt, did a great job of coming up with a good plan. I don't know if there's a better time of the year to do it. You get so many days during the non-contact period, and to be able to go out and evaluate. So I don't think that there was any more or less opportunity. We probably got to, I know for me personally, I got to go to some games that I wouldn't have been able to see just based on they would have been played, and I wasn't going to be going out this past weekend, so I got a chance to do that for myself. So I thought that was very, very positive. So I think it's give and take. There's probably some parts of it that you would wish were a little different, but as far as from a recruiting perspective, I felt like that we were able to maximize our time, and we had coaches all across the country and very effective.
2 weeks, the 2 weeks of preparation for this next ball game, did you see anything in the first 2 weeks of play that you decided to take in a different direction than what you previously did?
Well, I would just say, from a schematic perspective, you always go back and evaluate the first couple weeks and see the things that you feel like you're good at, and you want to kind of grow certain areas, and maybe, so I would just say you kind of go through and based on how your players are playing and what you're doing well, or maybe not doing as well, you kind of cut out and add to. So I thought that this gave us a great chance to kind of lay the foundation for some things that we want to be able to do in the future schematically, and even some personnel, to try and get guys, continue to get guys in positions to be able to help our football team, whether it's in special teams or offense, defense. And so I thought that we had a good, 3 days of work last week that you really kind of weren't expecting to have. And we already had our whole game plan done for FIU, and everything was finished. And so really had to kind of go back and really look at some things a little differently very quickly. So, but I did think it was good for us to be able to make some adjustments.
You mentioned Brandon Knight. Any updates about, from a physical point of view?
Yeah, I think that he's progressed well, and I fully expect him to play and get his first action. So he's ready to go.
Any other news along those lines?
Simon had a little bit of issue from the last game, and Stepniak, and he should be good to go, and so feel good about his health. And the rest of the guys, there wasn't anything serious. It was just more some dings here and there that allowed us to just get a few extra days to get some rest on some guys that, just the typical, our first game was a physical game, and even the Virginia game, and they're a physical football team, and so I just think 2 weeks in a row of that is good to get a little rest.
Covington having a quarterback background, how much, if any, does it help as a linebacker?
Oh, I think there's some carryover. Leadership-wise, I think number one. Number two is just understanding, from an offense perspective, because that's oftentimes with the way the game has changed and the shotgun mentality, we often key that guy based on our alignment in our calls for the linebackers. We'll key his shoulders or key certain things about him. So I just think having that experience is nothing but a positive for sure. It's a unique combination. Not a lot of guys have that dual experience to play quarterback in college and linebacker. So, but I think just more of the game understanding and savvy helps him.
You talked about how much Coach Hebner meant to the program. Just for you personally, what are some of the things he represented?
Well, I just, as a family of our friend, and he and my dad go back with Coach, Red Fought at Franklin. They both played for him, and that was really the connection that I had with him. And when I first got to know him, when he was actually coaching at Franklin when I was younger. And so just a ton of respect for him. And then as he went to Miami, and then I went to coach at Ben Davis, we always went to Miami to their 7-on-7s every summer and met with their coaching staff. And he was defensive coordinator at the time when I first met him, professionally, and met with him. And we ran a very similar scheme. And so it was just a lot of those connections, and it just grew. And he came here, and I spent a lot of time with their staff and all those guys. And so just a ton of respect for him as a person, as a leader. Just always respected the way the energy he brought, kind of things I wanted to do as a coach. I modeled after him, even both scheme and his approach. And he just was a very special person, and then, as he proved on the field, he was a great coach too, and he understood things, and from a both scheme perspective and motivationally did some things that were pretty special. So loved what he was doing here, thought he was really doing some great things, and just really, tragically cut short. So, just really want to make sure, and we did a big deal with our players in fall camp, and I just want to make sure they understand who he is, and oftentimes the younger individuals don't really know as much about him, and so we brought in some, we had someone come in and speak and talk about him, and just talk about who he was, and what he was doing here. So I just want our players to never forget and have a great understanding of his history and what he means to our program.
Having that 2007 Insight Bowl team here this weekend for their 10-year reunion, they had a breakthrough of their own, ending a 24-year bowl appearance drought for IU. I guess, what are some lessons or takeaways maybe from their season, kind of season they had, I guess, and how you can apply that to this program's breakthrough? Yeah,
I think that they were able to do some things that hadn't been done in a long time, which, as you just mentioned, and that's important to note. And as they went through, and I remember I was watching the game when Starr kicked the field goal, to be able to get him in bowl eligibility, and what obviously a big game that was against Purdue, and so just understanding the history of that and what they accomplished and really what they did, in memory of Coach Hepp, and his goal was to get him to that bowl game, and for them to be able to do that, with Coach Lynch and their staff was really special, and a big part of what we're trying to recreate, and so I vividly remember that game, and I know just watching, Jane's response and how they kind of played that up on TV was pretty special, pretty neat. So I just think that it's just a great reminder too of the challenges we've had here to be able to get to that level and play to that level and to recreate that, and that's part of the breakthrough for us for sure. And we want to be able to get to where we understand that playing at that level to win the number of games you have to win, and to play at a consistent level, that they were able to do to get to that point. But then you say, okay, how do you get there? How do you keep there? So and just keep growing and growing. So I think anytime you have a chance to recognize those past teams and staffs that did that, you respect what they did, and we want to be able to be the next group to do that, and that's what our guys want.
Have you seen Peyton play, use that confidence from his game to play well in practice this past week?
Yeah, I think he's just kind of taken off where he left the game and brought that into the game against Virginia and played well. But I've seen him do it a lot in practice, and so just once again, those two guys are competing. Iron sharpens iron, make each other better every single day, and that's what we want from all positions, especially at a position like quarterback.
Now, one more question about Derek Ford, the quarterback for Georgia Southern. He's a redshirt freshman. What do you see in him? Does he present significant problems that you haven't seen previously?
Well, tremendous athleticism at that position, very, very fast. Young player, as you mentioned, as a redshirt freshman, hasn't had a lot of game experience, but the film quickly shows what kind of athlete he is, and that's the case across the board. I mean, they have on special teams, their defense. I mean, they definitely, we saw tremendous speed from Ohio State, and so I'm not going to put them at that level, but for sure they have a lot of speed and a lot of very good athletes, and he's definitely one of them. And they want the ball in his hand, and that's what their offense is made for. So he'll be definitely somebody we have to do a tremendous job accounting for and tackling well and affecting him like we affect all quarterbacks, but it's a little different when he's running the option.
All right, thanks, Tom.
All All right. Thank you. Have a great day. Elio?